What high level job do you think you could lie your way into with no experience and no one would notice? Wish I'd caught this thread earlier, since no one is likely to see this. My grandfather went into the Air Force straight out of high school, giving up a full ride football scholarship so he could marry my grandmother and provide for them. He goes for the aptitude testing and they call him in afterwards telling him he has tested off the charts and would be good at just about anything. They ask him what he has experience in so they can place him somewhere, and he says the very first thing that comes to mind: computers. Computers are new and take up a whole room at this point. He's never seen one in his life, but convinced these officers that he's had about as much experience as you could have at this point. First day on the job, he's thrown into a room with a bunch of scientists who can't figure out why their computer isn't working. He's scared shitless, but uses the modern day favorite. He turns it off and back on. To his shock, it works, and they praise him as the new computer expert. He read books and attended classes on the side, learning everything he possibly could, and became very successful. After 8 years, he declines to renew his contract with the military service, but he's so indispensable that they hire him as a civilian. He walks out one day in military dress and walks in the very next day to the same desk in a suit and making twice as much. A few years later, he was building flight simulators and working in avionics. He was involved in helping send the first crew to the moon, developing modern plane consoles, and more. Not bad for a high school grad. I'm a video producer/editor for 24 years now. I could probably teach someone how to successfully edit and traffic broadcast quality commercials well enough in 4 to 5 days to make 50-60k at an edit house. Can confirm. Met a producer for a household name talk show host 5 years ago at a party where he told me they needed a new video editor. Told them I could edit, I couldn't, and he hired me on the spot. Spent the weekend looking at YouTube videos on how to edit. Started my career, and I now run the post-production department at a different production house. My dad told me that his first job out of technical school was at Enron. He had a good friend that worked there, so he was able to get an interview. My dad ends up lying on his resume, mostly regarding his experience and knowledge of software development. Once he arrives at the interview, he takes notes on the technical questions that they're asking him as he bullshits his way through. Long story short, he gets the job and uses the notes he took during the interview to buy coding books. I believe they were O'Reilly, mostly because I remember thinking how cool the illustrations of the animals on the covers were. He would study the coding books cover to cover, learning how to do his job as he'd go along. He wound up doing very well there until Enron went bankrupt. Fortunately though, he found work as a lead software developer at a large electric services company and does very well for himself. Lied my way into a tech repair job. Asked my new boss if he could run me over their operating procedure with an example on the bench, and apart from putting my PC together had no real experience at all. But I watched and learned and asked for lots of second opinions in my first month. Never got noticed and got extra work from him using my software experience. I still freelance software solutions for him and his clients today, haha. 3 years ago, a guy asked me if I could animate. He knew I could design logos and websites, but he didn't know I had never animated anything. Avoided learning Flash like the plague in college. Wouldn't touch it. I said yay, I have a guy who works for me that animates. That way when I spoke with him, I could play aloof on anything I didn't know yet personally and look it up later. So he hired me. Truth was I had no guy, but I knew Photoshop and Illustrator pretty well. Figured it can't be that hard to put it to motion. Stayed up practically 24/7 for 2 weeks and taught myself After Effects. This June I did $48k worth of animation projects for different clients. Before that I spent 5 years as VP over creative, marketing and business development at an event management agency. I had worked for a decent sized business in an unrelated field before that, and I told them I had managed all that company's events each year. The truth was the company only held one event per year, but it was a decent size and involved streaming in remote office back when that was much more difficult than today. The other truth was I didn't actually lead the event. All I lead were the slides forward and backward in a PowerPoint. Craziest part was I applied to be a normal project manager, and they liked me so much from the interview they hired me as VP. So now not only was I doing a job I had never done, I was coaching others how to do jobs I knew nothing about. It was a rough couple months to get going. The PowerPoint company was the company where I was hired on as a marketing coordinator. I hated the work. Did it for 3 years and wanted more money, but I was maximum out for my position. They had an opening for intranet manager in it though, but you had to know SharePoint. I did not. Told them I did. Got the promotion and learned on the job. Thankfully the things they wanted from SharePoint were super easy to set up. But I hated SharePoint more than marketing, which is why I applied for the event manager job, which led to the VP position. I've pretty much decided that most office jobs can be picked up if you're charismatic, observational and willing to put in the extra effort to learn independently, so you don't show your ass. Fake it till you make it. But it's not easy, that's for sure. I'm a pretty good cook, but never worked in catering professionally, other than catering a few friends' parties. One day a small but posh cafe near my kid's school put a sign saying they needed a head chef who made foodie foods rather than classically made food, etc. I walked in, spoke with one half of the owners. The wife ran the retail part. The Italian classically trained soon-to-be ex-husband ran the kitchen, but was leaving soon. Told her I'm possibly what she's looking for. Would she like a demonstration, etc. This was on a Thursday. She asked me to come back on the Monday with some dishes. Long story short, came back Monday and had the job by Thursday. Redesigned the menu, ran a team of 5, put all in place. Everyone loved the menu and food. And 7 weeks after starting I found that they didn't have a license to sell food. I bounced within 10 minutes of finding out. All in all, I was on the job 8 weeks running shit I've never done before. Proud achievement, but when I asked legit chef friends about it, who were way jealous I'd done that without any training or anything, they told me that at the very least I could be named in documents if the shop got in trouble for selling food. Not me, but my grandpa lied his way into an electrician position. He went into the interview talking about his experience, etc. But when they asked about his schooling, he said he got it from his college, but lost his diploma. He fucking mailed his interview, so the company called the college. Grandpa did his research. The school he said he went to suffered a massive fire that led to the loss of a ton of documents. After learning everything there was to learn at that job, he went in as lineman for a major electric company in the state, then later moved away and went into business for himself as an industrial electrician. In 2004 the CEO of the place I worked was exposed as a con artist. She had no qualifications and somehow convinced headhunters to place her on the board of the BBC as the head of BBC technology. Nobody ever checked her CV. She was in charge of multi-millions. In fact sold part of the BBC for over £100 million. Went back to prison when she was caught abusing expenses and it all unraveled. Goes to show that you don't need to know anything but need to be supremely confident to be a big boss. It's being kept under the radar as far as possible, but there are some articles to be found if you Google Ann Wilson or Ann Harrison me. I did that a few years back and it went pretty well. I had no experience in interpreting and translations at all. I was just trilingual from the languages I was exposed to since childhood. And I went through my job for a few years without my boss or manager noticing that I had no expertise in that, since none of them understood French. The process wasn't pretty, but at least I got the job done. I left the job on my own later. You might be able to do it in an ed field for a local government. I actually have a degrees in computer information systems. I applied to my county government as a software developer. Only took a single course in college on the entire subject. Ended up getting it, leading a team eventually, and leaving after a few years to move on to a larger company. If you can learn it, you can basically become anything you want. I was going to say personal trainer, but since that doesn't really sound like a high level job I'll tweak it to celebrity personal trainer I get, haha. One more rep, another lap, put down the ice cream, drink spinach and beet smoothie. You have had an appointment with the soup doggo. It has made nice hot soup for you. Like and subscribe to show your appreciation of the soup.